Yeah, we have a surprise element and an absolutely wonderful input that's coming up. Thanks to our IGP ISDGOK, Mr. Sanjay Sahai. Sir, may we request you to kindly comment us with the technology part of updation. Thank you very much. And request to Mr. P.V. Kumar to kindly come and be in the chair for this session. Welcome, Mr. Sanjay Sahai, for the role of technology in building safe cities. Welcome, Mr. Kumar, sir. Yesterday, Mr. Sahai was trying to give a lot of inputs in between. Today, the whole session is his. Over to you, sir. Over to the chair first, and then over to Mr. Sanjay Sahai.
This session is on the role of technology in building safe cities. And Mr. Sahai, Sanjay Sahai, IGP Intelligence, would be giving a presentation on this. This is a very important aspect of how a very important aspect of keeping the city safe. As in our first the first session, when there was a talk on terrorism and reaction and prompt reaction to it, there was this question of the use of technology and how it helps in responding very fast and evaluating vast amounts of data in real time to get at some sort of conclusive proof. I'm sure in this presentation, Mr. Sahai will give us an idea of how to do so. I request him to please go ahead with his presentation.
Good afternoon, all of you. I think all of you are awake after, I think, a slightly heavy meal. Homeland security is the philosophy, blueprint, and future of policing globally. The attack on the World Trade Center in 2001 has been the single most important event in the history of modern mankind, and it has changed the world in a manner which nobody had ever imagined. It has forced the world to change its perception on the nature of organization, the usage of technology, the responses, the consolidation of activities, and the spread of mechanisms needed to thwart ever-growing terrorism the world over. As soon as the embers of 9/11 were settling down, America came to a realization that the administrative mechanism and the legal enactments are not in a position to respond to the type of terror attacks which Osama bin Laden planned. And in the days to come, things would become more and more difficult. They took around 13 months, and in October 2002, we saw the creation of Department of Homeland Security. Department of Homeland Security has been an integration of nearly 23 departments, seamlessly merging to fulfill, to give you as a result, to give you as a product, what was required for the citizens of the US. Last 12 years has been a tribute to the work of Department of Homeland Security. But for the Boston bombings, America has been free from any terror attack. That does not mean to say that there are no attempts made. There are many attempts made, and a couple of attempts like the Times Square one, we have seen how it was handled. So the Homeland Security, it is a robust counter-terror mechanism. The Homeland Security Department in the US has brought forth a transformational change in the philosophy, blueprint, and execution of counter-terrorism in America, and slowly it's being replicated across the globe. The nature of terrorism which all of us face today globally is quite similar, and the mechanisms which are to be created to thwart terrorism also would be similar, but for a bit of a customization in different countries, different geographies, different technologies, different thought processes, different governmental systems, and different mindsets. As you all know, I am an internal security expert. And over a period of time, I have been attending seminars on public safety, speaking there. Slowly I realized that public safety and security makes no sense unless it gets synergized with Homeland Security. Homeland Security is the anti-terror mechanism which has been laid down by the US. It was created to a large extent by two major enactments of the Patriot Act and the Stafford Act, one in 2002 and another in the year 2005. And it has the capability of monitoring, supervision and oversight mechanism. I think there are 82 congressional committees which generally keep claiming that there is too much of a legislative or the legislature's control on the executive mechanism of this nation. You will find it very strange and you will find it very interesting that there are 82 congressional committees which look after whatever is being done by the Department of Homeland Security, which works on simultaneously with around 245 standard operating procedures. So all of us are aware as to what the problem is. We are also aware of the fact as to what result we should get out of the system which we have laid down either in the US or laid down in this country, and we want similar outputs. Unfortunately, we are not at that stage. When America decided to integrate its systems, their systems were already in place. May it be a video surveillance, may it be Tetra telecommunications, may it be whatever. So what they did, they integrated the systems which were already in place. Do we have those systems in place, or we are still groping in the dark? My own understanding is that if you go and set up an IT company in International Technology Park Limited, you straight away start working. But if you have to create an International Technology Park, so you can well realize what the issues are. And that also in a country which does not believe in transformational change. We believe in resurrection. We believe in resurrection. We don't believe in revolution. We are not ready to change in a manner America changed. For a completely closed door privacy environment, giving whatever best could be given for a business enterprise. Two, as Thomas Friedman in his famous book on 9/11, he writes, America realized what its firemen are. It realized what its policemen are. America realized what governance is. Now that realization should also dawn on people in this country. Correct. So we have to reach what we call as the plug and play mechanism. And to reach the plug and play mechanism where we can get the features and functionalities of a system which is operational in the US and most of the developed countries, we need to create a technological framework under which we work. In the year 2005, Dr. Manmohan Singh, he started a project called Mega City Policing Project. The Mega City Policing Project is based on the concept that all our main cities are economic growth centers of the nation, and any attack on any of these cities will adversely affect the economy of this nation and indirectly or directly the sovereignty of this nation. Now both these two things are completely enmeshed in each other, and none of these can be allowed to happen. So Mega City Policing Project started in 2005 and did not go a long way. It was being chaired by Commissioner of Police Mumbai at that particular point in time. And finally, whatever happened on 26/11, I think it proves to the contrary that the efforts which were made in the Mega City Policing Project, primarily on the technological side, primarily on a concept of creating features and capabilities and functionalities which would be able to prevent any terror attack in this nation, it did not happen. Nonetheless, it did sow the seeds of city-based anti-terror mechanism. This does not in any manner absolves the Indian nation of its responsibilities on the rural front. Correct. So we need a technological framework, and that technological framework, to best of my understanding, which will give you the functionalities which the US Department of Homeland Security is providing to a considerable degree with good amount of or some amount of customization is the framework which I enunciated in the year 2011 in a FICCI conference in Delhi. It has been hotly debated. That particular conference voted me as the best moderator, not the best speaker, but the best moderator there. And this is being debated upon for last nearly 2 years across this nation and even beyond these shores. And till today, I am still to find a dissenting note. This technological framework has already been submitted for copywriting, and it is under that process. So what is this technological framework all about? This technological framework is about creating a technological mechanism which will provide you a plug and play mechanism for the internal security managers, for the political executive, or whosoever is at the leadership level to decide at that particular point in time as to what action should be taken. I would not like to comment on 2611. Nonetheless, from the time we got the first news of it till the time the operation ended, it would be very interesting to know as to who the person was on that decision-making seat. From the Commissioner of Police to whosoever in Delhi, and in whatsoever manner, one person or a group of persons. So, that particular person or a group of persons as a body decided upon the nature of action in that particular operation. Now that nature of action was controlled by the inputs, critical inputs which were available. What this technological framework intends to provide you is inputs which are critical, which are real-time, inputs which will add value to your decision-making process. The working plan or the plan of the hotel, that was not available. There's a lot many issues which finally come in way at that nick of the moment between the capability of the human being and the capability of the system. It should not happen that a great commando, because of inefficiency in the system or the technology not laid in place, has to do things which should not have warranted in the first place. So first and foremost, what we need is a command and control center. A command and control, I'm limiting my whole talk to Delhi, Bombay, Calcutta, Madras, Bangalore, Hyderabad and Ahmedabad. These 7 cities were a part of the mega city policing project, and I would also be restricting my talk to all these 7 cities. So city-based command and control centers of the type we have, we call it the control rooms. We don't call it command and control centers. Command and control centers will integrate all feeds: radio, audio, video, text, data, images, and graphics from different channels. Finally, it will end up on one screen through a viable command and control center software, command and control center software, creating in the process what we call the state-of-art C4I command and control center. It is command, control, computer, communication, working on interoperability. It is a seamless synergy of technology, of human beings, of professionals, of decision makers, and finally making it actionable for every single citizen of this country. It would have the capability to handle the worst terror attacks and natural disasters at one end, and day-to-day responsive policing at the other end. We create a mechanism which is at a level of 30,000 feet, which can handle situations, which can handle systems, which can handle money laundering, it can handle a lot many other things. But the system also has the capability to work on a day-to-day basis. Policing also is a day-to-day policing. And our focus cannot be only to terror attacks, only to law and order situations, only to issues related to organized crime in a country wherein most of the issues for which police is criticized upon are issues of day-to-day existence. The second is the interception system. We intercept couple of phone calls, we intercept couple of other things, but at the end of the day, do we have any command over the complete flow of data in this country? In the social media, the amount of information which is available is unimaginable. And we still don't have any training on social media. the Danish terrorist, he put his whole plan 6 hours before the execution on the social media. So the capability to monitor and penetrate into any mode of communication and storage for the required suspected information/data and the capability to analyze and connect to our requirements on a real-time basis is the urgent need and utility of interception systems which needs to be put in place, upgraded or scaled up as the case may be. So this is the complete utility of the interception systems. If we today get into the whole technological framework, technology, as I understood a couple of days back, I think in this same room, it is being synonymous with TV, with computer, with some other system. But I got enlightened myself over a period of time. I would certainly like to enlighten the audience that technology today is a system. It is an integrated system. It is not what equipments you are putting in place. It is the way you are integrating for your own purpose. And if technology fails, it is not like God failing. It is you who are failing. If the integration of the system and if the software which runs that integrated system does not have the capability to throw up the results, it is not the fault of the technology. It is certainly a fault of our competence levels. So that is precisely what I understand of technology. I'll come to the next point wherein Tetra was extremely successful in China, in the Beijing Olympics. Tetra failed in Commonwealth Games. And Tetra still eludes India. I asked a couple of guys. I told them a story of a lady who heads digital component of the Olympics. She just finished her 3rd Olympics. And second day she flew down to Rio de Janeiro. Why? She's in a hurry. Only 4 years left for the next Olympics. But when the Indian guy will say, 4 years we have just finished one. We will see after 2-3 years. So that is the whole concept. And to your extreme amazement, I'll just give you a very, very startling fact. That the systems of technology, particularly digital technology used in London Olympics, were tested only 2 lakh times. Only 2 lakh times. Is whether our governance or our governmental structures or the private companies who operate in this nation, can they ever think of a situation where they test the systems for 2 lakh times? I'll give you another example of the Beijing Olympics. The Tetra Public Safety Network in Beijing Olympics was ready, I think, 760 days before the Olympic got inaugurated. They ran it for 760 days. Where will it fail? You tell me a system which we have integrated and run for 760 days before we have finally used. 7 days also. I'm thankful for that information as well. So these are the interception systems. We move on to the city-based video surveillance system, and everybody talks about CCTV, and we are extremely happy about it. Here again, the same failing of a system happens. So CCTV is, for God's sake, it is not city-based video surveillance system. There is certainly a difference between city-based video surveillance system and CCTV. And if you add video analytics to the city-based video surveillance system, it becomes totally different. Whether you accept or you don't accept, most of the terrorists or most of the incidents could be joined together as part of the investigation only through CCTV footages, only through video footages. Kasab is a prime example. And like that, if you go for London terror attacks and so many of the terror attacks. So it is very critical to our existence. But in a city where we find one camera not working, to creating a system which is a connection of, integration of, enhancement of, value addition of 20,000 cameras, I think I will leave it to your imagination. So city-based video surveillance system which fails us over and over again, but the failing is not there. Failing is that we have not even created a detailed project report for a video surveillance system anywhere in this country. That is the beauty of the whole game. And there's a private company who approached me, I'll do it for whole of Bangalore. I said, what is your capability? He says, we have done it for Jamnagar. I think Jamnagar doesn't have a city-based video surveillance system. He says, no, for the petrochemical plant. They put 11,000 cameras on a petrochemical plant in a controlled environment. I still can't find any utility of putting 11,000 cameras there. And that controlled environment situation, if you want to replicate in a city with a population of around 10 million and an area of, I think, 748 square kilometers, I think there are gaping holes in their understanding of technology and what technology has delivered to them, and that technology, to best of their business interest, will not deliver the functionalities which we want of that particular technology. A deterrent and a must for any big city. Do any of you have doubts that city-based video surveillance system with inbuilt video analytics is the biggest deterrent for a terror attack? What is your opinion? It's the biggest deterrent. Everybody knows that if every single inch of a city's landscape is being monitored, supervised, and can be recreated at any point in time, in whichever manner we want, zoom, pan, tilt, whatever technologies you say, I think it will certainly be a great deterrent, and we have to demonstrate that capability at least once or twice in the public domain, so that people have that fear. Today technology is being treated lightly because we are not able to deliver the functionalities and utilities, the output which the technology should deliver. This is the diagrammatical representation not of the technology, but the integration of city-based video surveillance systems which can be broken down, say in Bangalore, Division 1, Division 2, Division 3. It is a very hypothetical thing. It's broken down to that, integrated at a city level and then integrated at the national level. And that would be India's national city-based video surveillance system, wherein every inch of the 7 cities can be seen to a zoom, wherein I can make out your face with utmost amount of clarity, at least to a level where your face can be used by face.com. Correct? And at ease and efficiency of integrating this data much better than what Google is doing. So this is broadly where we are. So it is cities-based video surveillance system integrated to the national level, and we move on to next. Tetra radio network. Terrestrial trunk radio is the parallel of GSM on the public safety side. And it is more secure, 100 times more secure. The whole network is under your control. It is not under control of Airtel or any other organization. It is my network, my dabba is there, my server is there, my connectivity is there. Any equipment to any equipment. It's not restricted to radio. It gets connected to imaging, it connects to that data, it gets connected to anything. And if I asked to one of the experts who came from Sweden, I would like Tetra to be integrated with the ERP. So the bugger, he got lost completely. Okay, I tried to explain it to him. He did not give me a reply. Then I asked him, technically, can it be integrated or not? He says, technically it can be integrated, but I don't think it's possible for us to integrate. So that's a different issue. Technically, the output of Tetra public safety network, terrestrial trunk radio public safety network, can be integrated to an enterprise resource planning solution. And that changes the landscape completely. It is a fully digital mode with a complete integration of all communication gadgets and delivery of high quality voice, data and other related inputs. Tetra eludes India. Our first brush with Tetra was Commonwealth Games. Unfortunately, all dimensions of the Commonwealth Games, it crash landed. And there was a joke which was going on at that particular point in time, that the Commonwealth Games were not held for sportsmen or sportsperson, but it was held for contractors. So anyway, there are different games. Games will continue in this world. In reality, the excellent public safety communication network improves our responses to war on terror, organized crime and disaster management. In the Bombay blast, the recent ones, 15 minutes there is no communication between the chief minister and the police leadership. And I also accept, by the same analogy, there was no communication between the police leadership and the police people who are working on the ground level. They experienced this earlier in the earlier attack. Very famous attack, 26/11, but things keep on repeating, rightly or wrongly. Correct. How many of you know what is geospatial technology? Geospatial technology, no takers. Geospatial technology is modern imagery. It is the maps of today. Huh? Yes. Geospatial technology is the third eye. It is supposed to be one of the biggest advances in space technology. And it's not only used for the police or India, we don't use it at all. It is used for nearly every conceivable human being, police, department, any organization across the globe. Correct. There's a huge imaging corporation in the US which only processes image which comes out of their great satellites. You have a satellite in US, a whole satellite system for geospatial technology called Galileo. The one which you have in Russia is the Glasnost. And there is another one with 156 satellites or so in the US. The basic concept which we have to have in mind is you can reach even till thermal imaging. If you use that imagery, I can tell you that there are 4 people here and not 5. It can be used in Naxalite operations. It can be used in insurgency operations. You can get imagery to a level wherein you can decide upon the gap between 2 cars parked outside your office. Had we used geospatial technology or geospatial imagery in, say, 26/11, the situation would have been totally different. And to best of my understanding, though I have not read it anywhere, I'm convinced of the fact that Abbottabad operation stands out as one of the exceptional examples of geospatial technology. And one sentence which I keep repeating over and over again, if 9/11 was the worst, most negative example of use of digital technology in the world, then Abbottabad operation was the best use of digital technology ever in this world. Okay, so we are here, the map of today is the geospatial imagery information, the third eye as it is nicknamed. Geospatial technology and intelligence are critical to planning, preparation, and response to terror attacks, natural and other disasters, and supports incident management. It is a great tool for regulation, enforcement, monitoring, and supervision. Correct. Now these great 5 technologies which I have talked about, it will work on what? This will be all isolated. We call silos. Finally, it has to get integrated into a system which works on a real-time basis. And that system across the globe for any organization has been the enterprise resource planning software. I have had the privilege and honor to create an ERP solution for Karnataka State Police. It is known as Police IT. It's been functional for last 3 years. And it has nearly 2 million lines of coding. It has 522 screens and 417 reports and might be the only ERP solution created in this country. So this is where we stand with ERP solution. If you have a ERP solution, you have a complete database which will get integrated into all these technologies we are talking about. It gets related to crime, it gets related to criminals, it gets related to your human resource, it gets related to your traffic, it gets related to your wireless communication, it gets related to your training, it gets related to nearly anything, to your forensic science laboratory reports. So this is where we are, and that also throws up what we have asked from that system, and that is the management information system. The MIS is also inbuilt. ERP should throw up a real-time database. Updation on a periodicity decided upon. Will never throw up databases which will be of any use. The name of the game is, it has to be dynamic, it has to be real-time, and a database cannot be created after the incident is over, after the act is over, after the project is over. Database gets created by the actors who are a part of that project as and when they progress. Examples being railway reservation system, Make My Trip, ERP, core banking, any instance you take. So we are not trying to replicate what is there already in the system. We are trying to reinvent a wheel. Whenever we talk of any technology, we say we will keep standalone. We say we should also have a standalone version. Why do we need a standalone version? Correct. So that is where we are. So that ERP will throw up into an RDBMS, which will be real-time in basis. And that integration which we talk about is the integration of legacy systems of the department. Now every department, every organization has got lot many legacy systems. What do we do with the legacy system? What does the vendor do with the legacy? He will tell you, sir, throw all this, I will give you SAP R by 3. Correct. So your whole intellectual capital, your whole hard work, your all systems with every employee is familiar with, is thrown down the drain. And you start struggling with another ERP solution which is created in Germany, where you don't know what the Indian police is like. So this is the story of the ERP solution, and no organization can progress if you don't have a ERP solution. So the whole story is that the backbone is a ERP solution. You have a command and control center. You have interception systems which can handle interception of any kind, inclusive of a internet gateway. You have a city-based video surveillance system with inbuilt analytics. You have a public safety network, one of its kind, completely independent, completely exclusive, completely controlled by technologists either inside the police or outsourced guys completely under the police. And geospatial technology, which is the third eye, which gives you a totally different dimension to the whole thing. Unfortunately, in India, the maps or the imagery which we get, the resolution is 1:5,000. And it has to go through NRSA. Going through NRSA has a roundabout turnaround time of 14 hours. You can well understand that turnaround time of 14 hours, what immense damage can it do to a situation which is emerging. And off the shelf, commercial, you can get resolution of 1:35. So this is it. We put all this technological framework in place. Now who will handle this technology? Who will handle these complicated systems? Are our internal security managers or people above and beyond them who are generally not questioned? Are they capable enough to handle technology, systems, integrations in a manner which it should be? Are we competent enough to manage whatever outputs we get seamlessly? Creating a software by which we can bring it on one single monitor. But to reach that one single screen, I think it will take 5 years, 7 years, 10 years to reach that screen. Where Israel started 20, 25 years or how many years back, I'm not aware of. It's a long, long journey. But if it's a long, long journey, the journey has to begin. So this is where we stand. So the managerial response to war on terror is as important, as critical, or might be more, to handle all these systems and have the capability to reply. And I'm totally convinced of the fact that had these systems been in place or had the critical inputs which should have come at that particular point in time, our response to 2611 would have certainly been much better. So gap analysis shows a huge gap in the learning skills and attitude of internal security managers, which ought to be bridged. The human resources should be better than the technical system created and made functional. Utility is how we utilize. Innovative methods, inclusive of outbound learning, needs to be inculcated as a part of high-end training. Change management is the most critical component of our way forward. Two things which stops us, technology aside. One is the will, and second is our complete inability to change. It is resistance to change. These two things have nothing to do with technology. Professionalism leading to globally accepted deliverables is the ultimate value addition. Now, okay, you have created all these things. Beyond, what do you do beyond that? So every single technology which I have been talking about starts at the division level in a city, gets integrated at the city level. There are a couple of technologies which cannot be integrated at the sub-city level. So those technologies start at the city itself, and things like Tetra and all that. Once it comes to the city level, these 7 cities get integrated into a national system, and it has a command and control center somewhere for that particular technology. For that particular technology. Correct. And finally, all these command systems integrate into what we call as the National Homeland Security Resource Base and Incident Support System. This is the final. This is the Mecca which we are supposed to reach. So NHLS, RBISS. So this is the solution, or this would be the final game changer in the way we would respond technologically. There are so many other issues technologically to this whole exercise. Correct. So where does this grandiose plan start? It starts from a National Homeland Security Blueprint. A documentary shaped to this dream can be given by way of National Homeland Security Blueprint, which would later become a proof of concept and finally a working document ushering in Homeland Security Age in India, a robust Homeland Security functional mechanism, thus taking this dialogue to its logical conclusion. And finally, this is what we need in any country to bring Homeland Security functional. The American experience and its successes have been the reference worldwide. Our journey, at best, can be marginally different. The integration of administrative mechanisms, the geographies, the technologies, and an ideal managerial component to create and run the system is only way out of this whirlpool, the whirlpool in which we are in. Any delay will lead to resurrection more and more difficult, and the chance of catching up with the enemies of mankind and beating them might be lost for a considerable time to come, with unimaginable adverse impact on the economy, society, polity, and the Indian psyche. So what is the national resolve? The national resolve is to solve the most intractable issue that terrorism is. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sai, for a very absorbing and informative and passionate presentation. I agree with Mr. Sai and all what he has been saying. The fact that the need for technology has to be realized by all government departments, and as Mr. Sahai had said, one of the most important things is to get the right manpower,
Correct.
the correct people to run it, train. We are all very slack about it. Many of us are digital dinosaurs. The higher we go, the higher up we are, the less skills we have, and therefore even our decision-making ability to understand and push forward such requirements is very slow. But technology is the need of the hour, as is the trained manpower for it.
Yes.
Some of the things which Mr. Sahai had alluded to, like geospatial methods and other things, some of those technologies are being used by us to a limited extent. It has not been extended to all the police states and all that, but at the center we do have, and we want to expand on it. And but it's just some of these technological things are very cost intensive. And that's a little bit of a hampering thing, but there are many things which can be done through technology and with getting rid of the present mindset.
Yes.
And I commend Mr. Sahai for his passionate presentation and his interest in this. I think this is the need of the hour. Thank you, Mr.
Sir, thank you, sir.